Hey guys, it's me. So this episode you're about to watch is, of course, gives us the final ending of the OverThinker storyline, but more importantly is, or was supposed to be, all about E3 and the next generation of consoles, the Xbox One versus the PS4. Does the Wii U still matter? That sort of thing. It's actually been in production for a while. Took a little longer than I wanted it to. Wanted to have it out at least in time for SGC, which I think it will be. So obviously a lot of this episode was going to be, and indeed is, devoted to, talking about the Xbox One and how everyone was so upset at all of the really horrible things that Microsoft was doing about it. Funny story. Not 10 minutes ago, maybe 15 minutes ago, the news after the episode had already been, shot, edited, cut, put together, literally about to hit the export button to make the episode, and we get the news that Microsoft is backtracking. They're giving up. Microsoft has said there's not going to be an always online connection requirement. It's not going to be region locked, and you are not going to have to go through all that bullshit with the used games. They're basically doing away with 90% of the stuff that people were mad at them about. I'm pretty sure the Kinect is still attached to it. The news is still breaking as I'm recording this, but I couldn't wait any longer. So I wanted to put this thing at the beginning here to just point out, yes, there is information in the episode that is complaining about stuff that is no longer an issue as of 10 minutes ago. The reason why I didn't just take it out was because, frankly, otherwise there would be no episode, and also because this was an E3 reaction video, partially, and that was the story at E3, so there it goes. Since I'm already here, I can also give you a little bit of news. Of course, I am a few hours from now. I'll be on a plane for Texas to go to SGC. Look forward to seeing many of you folks there. And also, speaking of SGC, hold on one moment. My book should be up for sale online sometime next week or within the next few weeks. But I am bringing some copies to SGC to sell there, and hopefully you'd like to buy one for me. The book is called Super Mario Bros. 3 Brick by Brick. It is a comprehensive, it's a whole book about one game. Not a strategy guide, but a long-term critical overview. Played through the entire game, chronicled in travelogue form, my journey through every level, every enemy, every sprite, every background, every musical, graphical, gameplay element, analyzed for aesthetic value, historical value within the Mario series. Has some background on the characters. There will be more videos up explaining more about this book, but this will be on sale at SGC, whether through me, it may be up at a booth. I'm working on that. If you see me there, chances are I'll have one of these to sell you. Supplies are limited, of course. So look forward to seeing you at SGC, and enjoy this now slightly dated episode. Thanks.
Teleporting. Nice trick. Here's how I do it. Where is the bearded one?
I set the dock packing. This ain't his fight. This is between you and me, creepy.
Now you will die.
Oh! Oh! Hey guys, it's me! They've come unmerged. But how?
Obviously, when you teleported the Earthstone away from Necrothinker's possession, it severed the fusion, reducing his power levels to the point where zapping both of you back here depleted them completely.
How exactly is that obvious?
I don't know, I'm just trying to move this shit along. Everyone is tired of the story arc at this point.
Works for me. Are you, good? I think so, yeah! And I've still got the sword for some reason! Alright, here we go. The battle everyone's been waiting for. OverThinker versus Whoa! What happened to him?
What's happening to me?
Sorry, Necrothinker. You were only ever a shadow. The shadow of my own doubts and fears manifested. But I've made peace with myself, and with this new world. I've seen the light. And so, now it's time for you to go where shadows go. Look, the metaphor kind of breaks down there. The point is, goodbye, jerkface.
What's happening to me?
I'm gonna keep this, though. This is cool. Wow, that wrapped up pretty efficiently. Yes, Commissioner Bunnyface.
Hey kid, I hear you got things wrapped up with the android?
Huh, word travels fast. Yes, Commissioner, the RoboThinker is toast.
Good, 'cause I got a question only you can answer.
Fire away, Commissioner.
Who won E3 this year?
Wow, that wrapped up really efficiently. Now, the thing is, Commissioner, this year's E3 was weird. The whole industry is in this really strange place where everybody seems to be acting as though there's some big impending disaster on the way, and nobody knows exactly what it's going to be, and therefore have no way of preparing for it.
In what sense?
The main issue is everybody knows that console gaming is going to transform into something completely different from what it's always been in the very near future, possibly even sometime during this very generation. Digital downloads, tablet and mobile gaming, free-to-play, indie platforms like the Ouya, the expected arrival of a Valve-backed Steambox concept. Everybody knows these things are going to change the landscape, but the timing is all very much in question. As a result, companies are kind of flailing around, trying to figure out what they should be preparing for the future.
Well, for example, Microsoft seems to have already decided that the sky is falling. The Xbox One, or X-Bone.
Bone.
The X-Bone is basically a console built to ride out an economic apocalypse. It requires a constant online connection, comes with Kinect built in for what seems like almost exclusively data market collection purposes, places draconian DRM controls on whom you're allowed to share your games with, and restricts used game sales to authorized retailers, which would basically be the death knell for independent game stores.
That sounds a little excessive to me. And I'm a cop. In Boston.
Pretty much. The X-Bone seems to start from the premise that its prospective customers have already stolen from them and are now on some kind of parole. You can't even lend a game to your friend without making them part of some authorized safe group. They're also emphasizing its place as a replacement for cable and DVR boxes, specifically via partnerships with organizations like the NFL.
Uh-huh. And what kind of games are they offering so far?
Call of Duty, EA Sports, and a new Halo.
Shocking. And how much am I supposed to pay for the privilege of owning this device?
$500, give or take.
No, seriously.
No, that's actually the price.
Mopsy's ears it is. If I could afford that, I'd already have a TV that does all that shit.
Well, now, to be fair, there is the argument that says that all of this stuff, the DRM, the inability to share, even the inability to trade with friends, is stuff we've been putting up with for decades in PC gaming. You know, I honestly don't buy that. Something to add, RetroThinker? Well, look, PC gaming was a totally different animal in my day. But I have studied up on the market, and what I'm noticing is that PC gaming, while it did indeed have those annoying restrictions, made up for it by doing things that consoles never could, like providing for the modding community, being able to upgrade your individual hardware, adjust your settings, all that sort of thing. But the X-Bone, it's like a console with all the weaknesses of a PC, but none of the strengths.
The kid's a quick study. So, next question. Is Microsoft fucking stupid?
No, and that's what worries me. See, everything about the X-Bone seems like the stupidest thing you could do in this business, but only in the context of this business staying relatively where it is now in form and function.
But if the bottom were to fall out of the market, if the economy and shifting demographic trends really change the landscape to the point where console gaming is going to dry up and become a market only for middle to upper class people in the first world west who can afford to pay $500 for a slightly prettier version of last gen's games, well, then the X-Bone is ideally suited to survive in that kind of environment.
So, basically, if the economy and general lack of interest have pushed enough of gaming onto mobile and handhelds that the only guys left willing or able to buy console games are the anti-thinker or Mitt Romney, then the Xbox One is all set.
Exactly. And what scares me is that Microsoft isn't stupid, which means they've got what they consider good data that is precisely where things are headed. And that's just bad news all around.
I can understand almost everything but the always online thing. Not everybody's got good internet, you know? I don't suppose they answered that.
Now that you mention it,
Fortunately, we have a product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity. It's called Xbox 360.
Right. So stick with 360. That's your message if you don't,
Well,
if you don't like it?
if you have zero access
Yeah.
to the internet, that is an offline device.
Wow. Fuck that guy.
fuck that guy. Yeah, fuck that guy. Hey, guys, I don't mean to butt in, but, it's about that time. Oh, crap, that's right. Commissioner, can I call you right back? I gotta see a man about a time jump.
Are you sure you don't want to stay, learn more about the past? No, I'm afraid not. Now that we know how the REFL3CTION can be killed, I have to return to my time and see if it'll work there as well. There's a lot of humanity to rebuild. Plus, I'm kind of crazy overpowered, so... No, yeah, you're right. A little broken. Storylines later on. Can't have a Superman around all the time. Yeah, that whole thing. Then I guess this is goodbye. Good journey, Game Overthinker. Good journey.
Where were we? Oh, yeah. So, Sony's show was all about rolling out the PlayStation 4.
And what is its deal?
Well, it's a PlayStation 3, but 4 is one more than 3, I guess.
That's it?
Yeah, new console, better hardware, but basically a straight-ahead upgrade. But it doesn't have any of the DRM restrictions, always-online requirements, or used game controls that the Xbox One does. It's also apparently got a new internal architecture that's much easier to develop for than the Cell processor that powered the PS3, so third parties are happy about that. The controller has a touchpad thing that nobody's quite sure what the full purpose is of yet, but it's unobtrusive.
And the games?
Nothing earth-shattering, but a solid mix of expected new titles, returning classics, really big emphasis on indie games, which is nice to see at an E3 presentation. The big deal was that they basically committed the whole show to fucking with Microsoft. The theme of the presentation wasn't so much here's our new console as it was here's all the stuff we know you hate about the Xbone, and here's all the ways in which we're not gonna do that, culminating in this.
This is how you share your games on PS4.
Thanks.
PlayStation.
Price point?
$100 less than the Xbone.
Huh. So basically not much innovation versus lots of innovation, but all of it in the wrong direction. Should I even ask about Nintendo?
Well...
Okay, so Nintendo's show was a little different this year. It's no secret that even with the benefit of launching over a year before the other two next-gen consoles, the Wii U isn't exactly setting the charts on fire.
I got one.
You do?
I heard Earthbound was finally going to be on Virtual Console.
Huh.
Well, it seems like the reluctance of third-party developers to get on board with the Wii U left them with not a lot to show outside of their own stuff. So instead they just did one of their Nintendo Direct presentations and pretty much let Microsoft and Sony have the floor this year.
Huh. My faith is a little shaken.
They did announce a new Smash Brothers for Wii U and 3DS.
And just like that, it's back. Any new characters?
I thought you'd never ask.
Alright, about fucking time.
Suddenly feeling like the future's gonna be okay.
Anything else get announced?
New Donkey Kong Country, new Yoshi's Island, Link to the Past sequel, new Pikmin, new 3D Mario with multiplayer, and you can play as Peach for the first time in a while. That's pretty cool. Oh, and Mario can wear a cat costume now.
He's a cat?
Yes, a cat.
Can Peach also be a cat?
Yes she can.
I have a lot of complicated feelings about that.
Of course, a lot of this is based on whether or not you think the Wii U belongs in the discussion at all, since its hardware specs are below the Xbone and PS4 to a point where some would say it's not even really a next-gen console. That is such horseshit. I had a feeling you'd have something to say about that. The only reason we started referring to the console market having a generation instead of individual consoles having generations like with every other piece of technology is because companies started syncing up their releases in order to try and outgun each other in the marketplace. In reality, technological generations really only refer to upgrades to an individual piece of hardware. And now that we're no longer making big seismic shifts like the jump from cartridge to disc or 8 to 16-bit or 2D to 3D, those are bloodbaths I'm kind of glad I missed, by the way, it really doesn't make any sense anymore to still think of these things in terms of generations based on hardware. The Wii U is the follow-up to the Wii. It's the next generation for Nintendo, therefore it's Nintendo's next generation hardware. And since it's coming out in relatively the same time as everyone else's next generation hardware, they're basically part of the same generation even if they don't have the same kind of specs. Fair point.
So what I'm taking away from this is Microsoft ate a big old shit sandwich, Sony seems to have actually learned something from 3 not great launches in a row, and Nintendo will continue to be Nintendo. That about sum it up?
Pretty much.
So who won?
Well, Microsoft definitely lost, and while Mega Man being in Smash Bros. Is a bigger deal to me than almost anything else at the show, you'd really have to stretch to say that Nintendo did anything more than affirm that they don't plan to roll over and die just yet. Conventional wisdom would say that Sony won, and while I can't really disagree with that, they really brought their A-game to this thing. It's still a long way between now and November, but the PS4 really does feel like a return to the balance between a genuine game console and multimedia functionality that made them the dominant platform in the PlayStation 2 era.
I mean, I'm the guy who said the PSP, PS3, and PS Vita difficulties suggested that Sony might have just gotten lucky with the 90s and early 2000s success in gaming, and I stand by that. But they definitely have to have learned something, and I'm really impressed. So I guess to the degree that anyone could be called a winner at this year's E3, Sony would be it. Yeah, technically.
I'm sensing some hesitance, kid.
It's just, I'm not technically sold that the narratives about winning and losing E3 still apply the way they used to.
Look, the big question heading into this new generation is whether or not console gaming can survive in a changing marketplace, and I'm just not sure that any of the big three actually had a good answer to that. Microsoft is diving into a bunker to ride out the end of the world, Sony seems to think things aren't going to change all that much, and Nintendo clearly thinks that just continuing to be Nintendo is all the security they'll ever need. I'm not feeling like any of them are the right approach, but what bothers me is that none of them seem to realize that the world hasn't been standing still for 8 years. The previous generation more or less launched in 2005, and it's easy to forget what a different world we were in then, even if it doesn't feel like that long ago. I mean, the main big audience for console games were the Generation NES kids who'd grown up during the Golden Age, been patient zero for the rise of the internet, and were now roughly college age. The PS3 and the 360 were both perfectly realized machines for that market in that moment. Teenagers and 20-somethings with disposable income to burn during a booming economy interested mainly in high-end sensory experiences with hefty online components, with the only real competition being PC gaming and the Nintendo alternative. But today, 8 years later, we had a stock market collapse. The economy is still shaky as hell. A lot of those human cash machine hardcore gamers are now hovering in the vicinity of their 30s. Maybe they've started families, maybe they're saving money for houses, or maybe they're among the folks who got hit really hard by this downturn and just had to cut back, period. Point is, that giant mass of bright-eyed young people with all kinds of money to spend on big new consoles for AAA blockbusters, it's a lot smaller now because a lot of those folks have had to move on with their lives and gaming just isn't a main priority for a lot of them. And the generation behind them has a lot more choices and may not be quite as devoted, at least not devoted enough to drop big money on new consoles right out of the gate.
The thing is, Commissioner, we keep making console gaming bigger, more bloated, more laden down with features, more expensive and exclusionary. Eventually the whole thing is going to experience a collapse, or at least a serious contraction. I don't know if we're there yet with this generation. My gut right now says Sony and Nintendo at least are in a pretty stable place for at least another cycle. But I wanted to see the reality of this stuff addressed by someone at this show, and nobody did. That worries me. Commissioner? You've gone all quiet. What's wrong? Did I answer your question?
I thought this was going to be easier.
Commissioner, what's going on?
OverThinker, I haven't been entirely honest with you. I didn't only call you to talk about E3 today.
Commissioner, what's going on?
I wish it didn't have to go down this way, kid, but you brought this one on yourself.
What upon ourselves? What's he on about?
Senator Lieberson is here with me.
Lieberson? Why?
And we were calling to distract you.
Commissioner? What the fuck is Cobalt Core doing in my house?
I'll field that one. OverThinker, this is Senator Joseph Lieberson speaking.
I've loaned my personal security detail to the police for the purposes of serving a warrant for the immediate arrest of the REFL3CTIONS, whom we now have learned is the true identity of the fugitive known as REFL3CTIONS. I would advise you not to resist. There was nothing I could do this time, OverThinker. You lied to me. I'm sorry.